Hi, Perfume Nation. Welcome to the show. Recently, I've noticed a intriguing, delicious controversy that's happening in the most heated debates in the fragrance community. I noticed when people debate and can't agree on definitions on what's going on, it usually does not pertain the fragrance composition itself. It's not even about the most scandalous events in the fragrance industry. It is about this elusive, mythological, and mysterious property that the way that we perceive smells and the way that we perceive them on others depends on skin. Yet we rarely ever look into the subject and try to understand what's going on, what's true, what's not, and how it all works. So today, I bring us a treat. I bring us Amitay Eshel, who is the skin expert in the biohacking community. Amitay, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's absolutely a pleasure to join you.
Amitay, you host your own podcast, which is about beauty biohacking. And I noticed that till recently, the world of sort of beauty, which fragrance actually belongs to, the beauty industry, longevity and biohacking industry rarely overlapped. So how did you forge this path? How does one become the skin?
You know, there is a saying in Hebrew, which I'm originally Israeli, but there is a saying in Hebrew that when experience and money meet, the money gains all the experience and the experience gains all the money. So really, for myself, it was being an entrepreneur and starting multiple businesses within the kind of health and wellness industry that are at their end goal is making you look better. One of the end goals. As an example, I was an executive in basically the first red light therapy company. So consumer, let's say, facing red light therapy company. Before we came into the scene, it was basically a therapeutic laser, and we kind of converted it into what people now know as like a red light therapy panel, or, you know, now masks are very common. But that was my humble beginnings in the health and wellness field. So the truth to the matter is, most of the time a skin expert is a dermatologist. Not most of the time a skin expert is someone that has paid a lot of money through academia to gain that knowledge. And obviously people should trust the ones that they feel they can trust and rely on their advice. My expertise are more about I would say the interaction between consumers and products, and obviously also the biology around that, but my expertise are a little bit more vast. It's going to be that middle ground of supporting a healthy, health optimized life through your skin.
I'm so excited to bring you to the Perfume Nation podcast because I collected the most, you have no idea just how many millions of people, how many bullets were shot, how many arrows were thrown in the discussions of what's toxic for our skin, what's not. Why does your favorite perfume work for you wonderfully in winter, but in the heat of your summer vacation it collapses on itself and you start stinking? Why does the same aromatic composition smells differently on me versus my husband? There are so many. But First things first, we gotta pace ourselves. What is skin?
That's a good question. So skin, we used to refer to it as the largest organ in our body. If you are a true nerd such as myself, you wouldn't necessarily call that, because our lymphatic system is referred to as an organ. The kind of the detoxification system in our body, or the thing that moves toxins around, is an organ per se. That is bigger than our skin. But as a single organ, this is the largest organ in our body. And the skin is a very interesting organ because it plays very different roles, not only in different scenarios, but also over the course of our lives. So if it has a role of communication, that's actually something that I assume we're going to talk a lot about today. It doesn't only communicate from the inside to the outside. So most people know that if they treat their body better, their skin's going to look better, especially if they treat their gut better, their skin's going to look better. if they treat their hormone balance better, the skin's going to look better, not only in adulthood where we get acne, but also towards the shifting point of sexual reproduction, or the optimal sexual reproduction. So shifting points happening anyway from age 20 to age 45, age 50. We know that the ways that our hormones change affect dramatically the way that our skin communicates vitality. So the skin changes in the way it communicates the health and the reproductive ability of our body as time goes on, and it progresses to being more and more of a physical barrier to aggressors, to things that are, jeopardizing our health from the outside, and less a communication organ from the outside in, if it makes sense. But in general, our skin is a living, breathing organ that is a part of not only of our body, but of our survival and health maintaining mechanism.
Fascinating. All right, then I think I just have to go on a little bit of tangent. There is this kind of experimental, mythological even, classification of skin in the frag community where people say that, on men's skin, this will open up, pull off the notes of such and such. On the female skin, is there such a thing as male or female skin?
There is, but it is mostly hormonal. I'd say a few things. As far as let's go from the outside in. So as far as bacterial makeup, or what we call microbiome, the skin microbiome, the living organisms that live on our skin and live in synergy with our skin, there is no difference. What is healthy for you would be healthy for me. And the reason I mention it is because we're going to get back to it when we're talking about interaction with fragrance. But there is no difference, and there's no difference, I would say, there's difference between every individual, but there's no difference, epistemological difference, as far as what should be a good composition of skin microbiome between men and women. Having said that, the biggest player in the difference between men's and women's skin differences would be the hormones, estrogen and testosterone. And because of testosterone, men's skin is about 25% thicker than women's. And throughout our lives, it becomes a more and more vital player, especially as we grow older. Skin thickness, which lends itself to anything from the production of sebum, production of facial oils, if you would, to balancing of pH. So it is very individual. There's something called andropause now, which it means like menopause, but andropause, it's when men start to have lower testosterone levels. Mm-hmm. But to the most part, it is more individual. You couldn't say on men it will lend itself. We can predict how a fragrance will lend itself, or we can't predict something opening up more or less, because it's a lot about the superimposed definitions of society as far as how men should expose themselves to the elements, sweat, maybe not use skincare products that balance their pH, which is pretty huge. Really, that's what you're talking about here. You're talking about kind of disbalances that lends themselves to the interaction between fragrance and what we call opening up that fragrance, which is a chemical change rather than what people might think, which is a kind of interaction between body chemical signals.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, if I try to summarize, so there are some genetic components that are, family with good skin, like we all know those people who just ageless. On average, men's skin tends to be a little bit thicker on average. Genetically speaking, is hormonal production, potentially some other microbiome properties, but all in all, there are way more factors. The cultural factors, climate factors.
Yeah. I would even venture and say, this is obviously a heuristic example, but I would say if we took people who live in the same vicinity, fragrances would behave on them, whether they're men or women, more predictably than sexes that live in other places or have different lifestyles.
As a perfect segue back to the basics. So what does give a smell to our skin? What smells? Is that the lipid smell? What smells here?
So I would say it's a complex interplay of various factors.
Okay.
First of all, including genetics, diet, hygiene, environment, and as we said, microbiome, the microbiome of our skin. The reason each person has a unique scent, which is often referred to scientifically as skin signature, is a combination of bacteria, yeast, and other microorganisms that live on our skin. And these microorganisms break down sweat and other secretions, producing specific, what we call VOCs, like specific volatile organic compounds, that these compounds contribute to our individual body odor. Genetics play a determining role there in the activity of these skin microbes, as well as the types and quantities of sweat sebum produced. So there is an interplay there. And that's why I said we know that microbiome especially skin microbiome, is shared between, and by the way, also gut microbiome is shared between people who live close together, people who have the same genetic makeup, and people who live within the same environments. We can understand how an environment is going to kind of drive our yeast microbes that live on our skin. So even we produce sweats, sebum oils, things like that, this is not necessarily what produces the smell. It is the breakdown of these raw ingredients by microbiome, by microbes, by yeast, etc. Then our genetics really play a role in what these microorganisms look like. There is a genetic component there. And how much sebum and sweat we produce, really. That's, referring to your question before about summer and winter, which, by the way, changes microbiome as well. So, it doesn't only change how much you sweat, but it also, different microorganisms change because you're more indoors during the winter and out during summer and things like that. Temperature.
Fascinating. And when we say genetic component, I guess a lot of people underappreciate those strains of bacteria, so-called microbiome, they have their own DNA, right? It's just, since we live in symbiosis, we inherit our parents' microbiome DNA.
Yeah, they don't have a DNA. So they have a DNA that's a little bit separate than what we think. So mitochondria, which is kind of the powerhouse of the cell, is a DNA that we carry and leave to our offsprings. But even though that is that's type of cellular, let's just call it it's not really microbiome, but that's cellular component that evolved separately from us and integrated. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are literal microorganisms that live on our skin, and they can change during our lifetimes. They can change. We share them with our parents if our parents live nearby and we have contact with our parents and we hug and kiss our parents. And we should do, by the way. This is how you're going to share those microorganisms. If you touch something and your parents touch it, if they give you to speak to your brother that lives in a different state on the phone and their cheek touched it and then you touched it. So there is a lot of, if they cough, okay, so there is a lot of components that are shared within the environment. They can also travel through the air to some extent. So there's a lot of components that are being shared there. And also, some environments are more conducive to one type of bacteria, not the other one. Blue light, UV light, red light, obviously like mold and things like that, all change your skin microbiome. And we can go over, there are many things. Water quality, many, many things. The environment, since it's statistically similar to other people that are around us, is going to dictate a lot of similarities between our microbiome. And that's why I would say if you change environment, you might not react to perfumes the same way. But that's what I mean by sharing. That's what I mean by having some effect that is shared between people. I think the main is not necessarily, or maybe applicable conclusion is, if you have a perfume or if you have a scent, your body odor, if things changed not for the better, or if you would like to change things for the better, changing the environment, whether around you or your skin's environment, trying to balance the skin's pH by using a more gentle cleanser, or using products that have not product, or using less, no offense to anyone with a lot of respect, not using inexpensive, in air quotes, like clean skincare products that tend to be contaminated, because companies that make like $15 product that don't have any preservatives, you can't have the cake and eat it too, you know. You can't have like a $15 product, expect amazing formulation, and expect it to be clean. It doesn't work like that. So you're going to have contaminated product that are going to affect your microbiome and your skin.
Entering a war zone here. This is I think where a lot of money was made and lost, is the question what's toxic or good for our skin. There's a whole world of aromatherapy and clean skincare, and also what's called natural perfumes, which essentially various mixtures of essential oil with some other chemicals. But since they don't contain synthesized aromatic molecules, they're called natural, because it's all in some shape or form. Even if it has mineral oil or anything else, it's natural because it can be found in nature. So I'm curious, is there anything that's known for certain what's safe and not safe for the skin? There's much concern about big pharma sponsored studies. At the same time, you start looking into essential oils, and I know some people even put them straight in their face, and they're, correct me if I'm wrong, they're very highly concentrated when you buy them. It's very confusing, and some of the materials that I was searching online, they also posted by the companies that sell essential oils, so it's hard to trust anyone. What is known, what's good or not good in terms of essential oils or any aromatic components when we put them directly on skin?
So you are asking a very specific question, which is this direct application. Direct application in general of essential oils is not recommended. You mentioned concentration, but it's not only concentration, it's also what we call molecular size, or really you should think of it as the size of the molecule, right? Molecular weight, and you can think of it as the size of the molecule. Essential oils, they actually are going to overshoot your skin. What we really would like is for your skin to kind of have it close to the surface or even on the surface, and them evaporating to the air, and then you're going to smell nice, hopefully, if it's the right essential oils. But the problem is that essential oils need a carrier. They need some kind of something, okay? Even coconut oil for that matter, okay? I'm just giving an example. Because we need to stop them from actually absorbing. If they absorb, not only that they absorb into the skin, they can actually absorb through the skin and into your bloodstream. And your bloodstream these are molecules that are foreign to the body. So I'm sure you're not going to inject essential oils into your vein, right? But really that's obviously it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to that when you're just applying it directly on the skin. Alongside the fact that you actually are not creating the effect that you would like, okay? So there are very few, there are maybe like 4 essential oils that I would say are completely harmless, mainly like chamomile, geranium, a few like flower extracts, rose, Damascus rose, or most roses, and lavender, I would say are harmless within the that context. I would still not do it. I would still use some kind of carrier, so apply it on top of a lotion, for that matter, if that's what you want to do, if you want to use essential oils, okay? But these are really the citrus ones that are derived from roots, citrus. They can be problematic. They can be problematic as far as like anything from allergic reactions to increasing acidity to causing dysregulation of skin microbiome and skin barrier function, which includes your acid mantle. So they're unbalanced as far as their pH levels. And your skin uses pH, it uses acid mantle, for that matter, as a form of protection. If you think of Star Wars, they activate some kind of shield. Also, Battlestar Galactica, I don't know what people like.
I watched that.
Okay, great. But they have some kind of shield before it actually hits the ship. You could think of it as your acid mantle. It's outside of your body per se, but it is it is a thing that is used in order to break down molecules that might be irritating and harmful. So we are boring a hole in that shield by using essential oils, especially ones that are not balanced pH-wise. I think the most common one as far as scent, like specific scents are concerned, probably would be bergamot, because that's, it's widely used, especially, I believe, for male perfume. Some people, I guess, use it and don't know it's even a citrus. So bergamot is a citrus. Or orange peel, bitter orange, obviously, limonene, lemon. These are things that disrupt pH.
Interesting.
Most would.
What about the concerns, which pretty much the same debates still happening in the clean versus functional scientific skincare, and the same with perfumery, synthetic versus found in nature components. So essential oils, for better or for worse, are very complex molecular mixtures, but all of that, technically speaking, is found in nature. So a lot of people make evolutionary argument, our bodies are more adapted to deal with those mixtures than to anything that's synthesized in the lab. I'm sure this debate exists in skincare too, right?
Yeah, skincare and fragrance as a whole does not use whole products as the same as nature used them, whether they are natural or not. To give you an example, one of the debates right now in nutrition is debate around seed oils. Seed oils exist in nature, but the way that they are delivered to us by the time that they become a seed oil, whether you are a believer in that or not, the reason there is a debate is because they are unnatural in the way that they are delivered to you. They are heated, they are extracted, etc., etc., etc. And they are at a quantity that is incomparable to what exists in nature. We can say the same thing about a chocolate cake, the amount of sugar in it. We can say the same thing about orange juice. The amount of oranges, you would have never consumed the amount of oranges that is in a jug of oranges that people consume sometimes in a day. Right? Also, when we talk about natural versus synthetic, synthetic normally is considered of unnatural origin or a molecule that is made in a lab. We can sometimes out of bacteria, sometimes out of a process that does not require necessarily extraction or distilling. But that extraction and distilling is as unnatural as synthesizing an ingredient out of bacteria or whatever. To the extent that, in my opinion, in skincare, some of the most harmful ingredients, if not most harmful ingredients that are used in skincare commonly, are ingredients that are considered not only natural, are considered clean. The best example is ascorbic acid, which what we call vitamin C, but that's not how vitamin C looks in nature. It is actually only the outer layer of vitamin C in the way that it looks in nature. So it is synthetic. It is synthetic even though it is made out of a non-synthetic product. And that actually causes rapid aging or a more rapid aging. I'm talking about only the type of vitamin C called ascorbic acid, but that's the most used and most common vitamin C in skincare. So when a company says, oh, we're clean, blah, 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 but they have ascorbic acid, it's actually, they are doing the opposite of why you're using that product. If anyone wants to dive deeper into it, it induces a process called ferroptosis, which is death of cells because you're exciting, and it's only came into prominence in the scientific community 2 years ago. So it's, even though we've known about it for a while, that high doses of vitamin C are used in some cases in therapies for cancer because they kill cells, not because they're good for you, because they kill cells. This is something that most people don't talk about. Same thing about perfumes, same things about scents. But we really want our molecules that are not affecting our internal organs, are not disrupting what we call homeostasis, the balance between processes in our body, whether they're natural or not. We talked about essential oils. We talked about, we can talk about oil-based or alcohol-based products. At the end of the day,
yes.
Yeah.
That is also another debate that's very hot right now. And it stems from the forever question that people ask, how to make your perfumes last longer. There's like a certain receptor adaptation component there, right? Like keep layering the scent, you will just keep your olfaction system will keep normalize it to zero. But even if we put that aside, there are a lot of myths and beliefs going around the internet that if you want to make your perfume last longer, try to find an oil formulation of it, non-alcoholic. Also, people say alcoholic perfumes will irritate your skin. It's not good for your skin, so put an oil. But you just told us, actually, if you can encapsulate a scent in oil, it's more likely to actually absorb through your skin inside rather than emanate from it. Is that correct?
You're not wrong to the extent that oils in general are, as a solvent, they can absorb into your skin. They're actually not very good at staying on the surface of your skin. They actually are not. For example, there is a common, there's a trend right now in natural skincare, again, in like clean skincare, of using oils as humectants, as moisturizers, which actually is not very effective. Anyone who used oils would know that. I can give an example of castor oil that's even going to dry your skin, but it's not a great carrier over your skin. It actually absorbs because our body's outer layer is oil-based. It actually mixes into it. So even when we think about soaps, soaps are derived from oil because what they do is that they kind of bind to our own oil. Oil and water don't like each other. So how do you make something clean oil? You're making it oil-based. That is kind of a long way, roundabout way of saying essential oils that are mixed into oil, or just scents in general that are mixed into oil, in order for the scent to last longer, would make sense in passing, but that really depends on your oil as a carrier to make sure it doesn't absorb, etc. That's number one. It is possible. Normally they are not as aggressive, right? It is per parts per million of a specific terpene or whatever we use there. It releases them a little bit slower rather than of evaporation of alcohol. But alcohol, again, evaporates faster rather than absorbs. So if we're talking about the health kind of component there, we're getting contact of potentially irritating ingredients that are separate from alcohol, separate from the carrier oil, for a shorter period of time with the skin. So counterintuitively, you might get significantly less irritation by using alcohol-based products rather than oil-based products.
Interesting. There is this one very popular advice that people and bloggers give on the internet, that if you really want to capture your favorite scent, you should take a hot shower, like all kinds of exfoliation, then spray the scent, and then put an oilier or balmier lotion on top of it. And people say that will capture the scent. Does that ring healthy to you? Like, is that
so
a
first
good
of all,
advice?
Not necessarily a good advice, because you probably would like to capture your scent every day, right? So you're talking about why a hot shower and not a cold shower? For example, if we broke it down, it's because a hot shower plus cleansing, obviously with a more aggressive cleanser, plus exfoliation, it breaks down a lot of the acid mantle, a lot of the stratum corneum, which is the outer layer of the skin, and it prepares the skin basically to fight less any type of absorption. So that's number one. I'm a little bit confused as far. So the reason you would maybe do that is to make sure that there is no competition or byproducts that are going to compete with the actual scent that you want, right? So you're kind of leveling up the playing field. Referring to this specifically, this kind of aggressive process, I wouldn't do it necessarily every day, okay? If you wanted to do it once in a while, go for it. If it's a special occasion, you're saying, I've done this process before, I know how I end up smelling, that is your best way to ensure that you will be smelling that way coming out of that whole assembly line of scent. But the problem is most of the decisions we're making and the decisions we end up getting positive feedback, we just end up doing more of those decisions. So what we're going to do long term is we're actually going to disrupt our skin homeostasis. We're going to actually start to create a cascade, a negative kind of a snowball effect that we will not be able to recover from as easily. So we're going to start, damaging our protective layers of the skin, which would, by the way, change our microbiome as well. So we're going to change our skin's composition. So we actually, long term, we might actually change the way our skin reacts to a specific fragrance. Having said that, the second point of putting some kind of, again, balm is not a word I would use. Let me explain why. Balms normally I would use the word occlusives. And occlusives are products that create a barrier between the strivectin is like an example for an occlusive, right? We at Young Goose, the company that we founded, that is like, again, like the cult skincare products in the longevity, in the biohacking field. We have a mask called the hyperbaric mask that a lot of what it does, it makes sure the body doesn't lose moisture to the outside during the night. It kind of is a one-way street to things like oxygen or actives, etc. So that's an occlusive. A moisturizer would be a good occlusive. Oils, things that are glycerin, things that are not good occlusive, they don't create a barrier, are not going to be effective in carrying that scent for a longer period of time. Because what you're doing, you're really blending the scent. You're creating whatever oil, whatever scent that is, you're kind of wrapping it in material that slows its release, right? The other thing is we want to make sure that there's no perfume, by the way, associated with that balm. Like a lot of the times, especially if we're trying to save on material, there's going to be fragrance there. Its own essential oils, fragrance, whatever that is, this is going to change that. Again, if it's not pH balanced, that's going to change how it looks like. So if anyone had bad experiences with it, it's probably that occlusive. Again, a natural moisturizer, there's a product called something like strivectin healing stick, something like that. That is a pretty natural, inexpensive occlusive. Don't use it around the eyes, but aside from the eyes, you could use it everywhere. It might create milia, which are little like granules because of that blocking of the pores. But if you spray it on your neck or on your wrists or the back of your neck, wherever you're spraying perfumes, that's where I would apply it. And obviously a stick is great because a stick allows you to apply something locally.
Okay, so I take it that a similar advice that I see often given, that putting Vaseline on top of sprayed perfume, it's the same thing. It has not much to do with the skin as it is with the barrier that will just prevent the evaporation.
Yeah, you actually prevent evaporation and also prevent absorption.
Oh, does it? Does Vaseline prevent absorption of whatever you put there?
It just holds it in place. So it doesn't prevent absorption because it seals the skin. Okay, actually it's not bad, but it's not like my product of choice. Again, actually the product I recommend is probably better from a health standpoint rather than Vaseline. But yeah, go for Vaseline if that's what you want. But you could do many things. You could blend it in your hand and apply them together rather than spraying it on the Vaseline.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. And again, it concerns me since you made it very clear that if you put something on very open and fragile, like after the shower, after the exfoliation, your skin is not pH balanced, it's very fragile, and putting dense fragrances in whichever form will cause a lot of absorption into your bloodstream, which we don't want to do. We don't want it to go in, we want it to actually emanate off. So would it be better to first apply some kind of form of pH balancing and lotion or sealant, and then apply the perfume potentially with some
First of all, it's always a good idea. That's number one. Number two, if your main goal is that effect of holding in the fragrance and maybe slowing its release a little bit, creating a release that is more even, more balanced, and I would say more neutral, that doesn't react with your chemistry as much, then you could do what you just said, or you could even take that component such as Vaseline or something like that and spray your spray as a liquid a little bit, mix it in the palm of your hand and apply it almost like a perfumed Vaseline for that matter, and you are going to create more of that.
Excellent. Thank you for the advice. I'm sure a lot of people found something useful they're going to try probably tomorrow. I'll definitely give it a go. I've been mixing with the strivectin and like kind of more neutral moisturizers. I've been mixing some of the perfumes and applying it this way as a perfume lotion. It's a really great strategy. What about humidity, heat, climate? Is it like, what can we do to enjoy skin smell and how it mixes with fragrance when we're on vacation? Or there's much debate about whether it's safe or polite to wear a scent to the gym. So what about skin, sweat, heat, and smells?
The elevators, I feel like elevators should be the the main focal point. The gym, go for it. But yeah, so again, you mentioned a few things. So you mentioned climate, as far as like humidity and temperature. Mm-hmm. Okay, but we can talk about barometric pressure and all of that, but let's just keep it with humidity and temperature. These factors, as kind of we've alluded to before, they significantly influence how our skin smells off the bat because they affect sweat production and the activity of skin bacteria. So not only which skin bacteria, but the levels of activity. So high temperatures increase obviously sweat production. They also can accelerate the evaporation of fragrance. They can also cause sometimes, depends on the compound, breakdown of aromatic molecules into less pleasant smelling compounds. But I want to focus on the acceleration of evaporation. So temperature is really the average, and this is a cool thought. Just anyone who's listening, think about it for a while, play with this idea. Temperature is just the average movement of molecules in space. If I take a certain amount of air in a balloon, I heat it up, the balloon will be more taut because particles are moving faster. As I said before, it's not only the chemical changes which are significant, the breakdown of aromatic molecules, it is also the evaporation, the higher evaporation. So that's as far as temperature. Humidity is very interesting because humidity can enhance the perception of certain fragrance notes, but it can make heavy or sweet fragrances more overwhelming. Classically, some fragrances are designed specifically for different climates. Lighter, fresher scents for more warmer climates. We can think of even companies that come from those regions. And richer, more robust scents for cooler temperatures. Again, thinking of brands that come from those regions and cater to those regions. So I think if we thought of fragrances for a vacation, we can really think of fragrances that come from that region as far as companies that we like, trust.
I wonder if you have a comment on why do people commonly describe if the fragrance collapses due to heat and humidity, that it starts smelling sour or bitter? Like, why is it always a change for the worse?
So the answer is annoyingly simple. It's because actually to create a pleasant symphony of smells is very difficult. What we're doing is we're reverse engineering chemical reactions in the brain or in the olfactory systems, which actually is a part of your brain. Off air in our last conversation, we spoke about the fact that this is a part of your brain that is exposed to the environment, your olfactory bulb. So you should give a lot of respect to a professional perfume designer or scented designer, because what they are doing is they are reverse engineering what a good smell should smell like. Obviously, they can do it even because they have a lot of experience and that's their intuition. But that is something extremely difficult. And when we change the parameters, evaporation time, again, degradation of molecules, oxidation, rancidity, etc., even the fusion of ingredients together skew that formula off balance. It is very similar to taste. Let's think of an avocado or a banana, or banana actually tastes better but let's think of most foods. They have a point in which we as human beings evolved to recognize them as tasty, and a deviation off of that chemically. A brown avocado, I don't think it's bad for you. I don't think it's worse for you than a green avocado, but it definitely doesn't taste as well, right? Yeah. So that doesn't taste as well, not because of a bacterial change, which happens sometimes. It can happen with meat or with anything really. It doesn't taste well because this is not what we evolved to like.
When we say about what we evolved to like, there are some very strong cases where what we like changes through time. For example, there's like notorious forum threads where women advise other women, never wear your favorite scent when you get pregnant. It will ruin it for you. You will never, ever, ever want to wear that scent again. Just either wear nothing or wear something else. Don't pollute your memories. And there are some men who say, like, when I was kind of hitting puberty, when I was I was 18, I loved this scent. It was like the thing for me to go out. And when they are 35, 40, it's like, I just don't even smell it the same. Like, what is it? Is it hormonal? Like, why does it change?
Yeah, some of it hormonal. We talked about bacteria and microbiome before. Some of it is psychological, though. I'm not discounting, by the way, the hormonal changes through the age. We talked about hormonal and bacterial changes, yeast bacterial, skin barrier changes. But we should also realize that there are psychological changes. We can think about smell, and you alluded to it in the beginning, not as strength, but as acceleration or as movement, right? If we drive at 90 miles an hour, we actually don't feel anything different in the car. What we felt is the way of getting from 0 to 90, right? This is what we feel when we think about perfumes. It is the change that we sense, change of scent that we sense. So also through time, we can respond to that change differently. Women now share a nervous system with another beautiful being that is growing inside them. So that could be also a semi-hormonal, because their embryo is communicating with them through hormones, etc. It does share their nervous system. It does share some of these experiences. So there is something to say about that. Another thing is that we use scents at certain points as signals from the environment, whether it is good signals, whether it is stress, whether it is danger. And a lot of times a woman during pregnancy is more vigilant to changes, just to changes. Therefore, they will just be more sensitive to things that rapidly change, such as before and after I put a perfume on.
And I guess in what could smell pleasantly balanced and cozy can be too much all of a sudden if you have a heightened sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It also can be matched to other sensations that are negative. Maybe you don't feel so great. Maybe you are, we know that some scents do affect our catecholamines, our stress
response
hormones in our brain. So whether it is norepinephrine or what we call adrenaline that is on our brain rather than in our body, or cortisol. So we might be elevating those, which anyway, women during pregnancy they have elevated levels of them.
You mentioned that the hormonal changes can change the way our skin looks, feels, and smells. I wonder what else can affect, because a lot of people are self-conscious. And if we look at the history of the perfumery, it's kind of somewhere in between chemistry, medicine, poisons, and hiding unpleasant bodily scents, like hiding sickness, kind of masking it with an essential oil, more pleasantly smell on top of something that's unpleasant. A lot of people are self-conscious about, maybe they sweat a lot, or maybe they're not as lucky with their microbiome. Yeah. What can we do to make our skin feel better and smell better?
Let's start with what you mentioned, which is like hormonal variations. So let's just break down like a few cases where that would be applied. So as an example, during puberty, as you mentioned, increased what we call androgen level, male hormone levels, can lead to more oil production and stronger body odor. So that's like one example. Hormonal, so something that I think is going to be more, I don't know if people talk about it right now in the perfume community, but hormonal fluctuations during menstrual cycle, during pregnancy, as we mentioned, during menopause. They can also alter anything from skin hydration. So hydration, oiliness, are things that affect the environments of which microbes live, and they can change the average microbe composition. Skin sensitivity, or again, its ability to absorb or sustain different elements that contribute to smells, aromatic compounds, can change as well. So these variations can certain fragrances more or less appealing. So I think it's important to be mindful that these changes are, first of all, not always permanent, and sometimes are, and we need to address that. Sometimes women, and men and women, but let's talk about women, if they have gone through menopause and then they go on hormone replacement therapy, again, they might have different skin, microbiome, and odor profile, which they will need to adjust to, and everything that we said. But other things can affect how we smell as well. Diet can influence body odor significantly. Obviously, there are many jokes about different ethnicities and the food that they eat. Garlic, onion, spicy foods, they all, and obviously different spices, they all contain compounds that are excreted through sweat. And then that obviously will affect how we smell. I would even say that memories sometimes, this is no joke, memories sometimes can have us excrete certain smells. I mentioned before hydration levels can also play a role in not only skin health, I think that's kind of common, but the skin scent. We mentioned before the products we apply to our skin, moisturizers, sunscreens, perfumes can interact with our natural skin chemistry in a way which changes it. Again, it can have carryover changes. We mentioned skin pH balance, microbiome. So these things can change because of product that we put.
Are you for or against of using fragrances in the skincare?
I am very much against. This is, I think, almost a different discussion because, first of all, a lot of the times it's not disclosed what fragrance. So, for example, we don't know where this fragrance came from. As we said, fragrances that are sold as fragrances are normally designed as that's their main characteristic. And it also, that there is an understanding by the company that sells it to you as far as shelf life. It is their interest or their incentive, no pun intended, to deliver a product that you would enjoy for a prolonged period of time. And normally that's why, we have pretty harsh, alcohols or other things that are maintaining that fragrance, citric acid, whatever. Not so much in skincare. So perfume, a lot of the times in skincare, is going to be an added ingredient. It can change by changing itself, by becoming more volatile with time. It can change the composition of other molecules. I mean, famously, we talked about vitamin C, but also vitamin E. Most antioxidants, they're very reactive and will not live long-term very well with fragrance. Alongside the fact that most products are designed to absorb into the skin, and they will take the fragrance with them. So I would separate the two.
I love it. I think it brings that much needed clarity. In many ways, the way that, if I understand correctly your point, fragrances as their own standalone product are designed to be of topical application. They are designed to stay on the shelf for years because it's a higher alcohol percentage than wine. So fragrances can go for centuries if stored outside of the light and heat. Okay. While in skincare, if it's already embedded there, even the same aromatic molecule will become more reactive if it's embedded in the skincare. It's much more likely to be actually absorbed into the bloodstream, and it's not supposed to be inside of our body. So we're better off use neutral, fragrance-free skincare and then topically apply whatever scent we want.
Yeah, which is positioning ourselves in a replicable body composition, skin composition, for our skin to behave the same way over and over and over again with the perfumes that we like, for us to know how long they last, etc. Okay? By using things like perfume, by using the same product with the same perfume over the course of, let's say, 6 months, we're actually kind of shooting ourselves in the foot because we're changing anything from, how the scent of that ingredient, of that cream, for example, is going to react with a topical scent that we want to use. Sometimes one would agree with it. Then you would want to try, another perfume, a new perfume that came to the market, and they might not interact well together. So it's just, there's a lose-lose situation there. And then obviously over time, the fragrance or its interaction with other molecules in the products can change, therefore changing even reaction with the same ingredient or the same perfume as before. So I think there are no benefits aside from benefits for producer, the skincare company, adding fragrance to skincare products.
There is also a lot of debates that might be more cultural than functional, but still, that you should stick with the same skincare, hair care, and the same fragrance. Kind of have your signature chemical agents that you always apply on yourself. And there is another point of view that you actually do benefit from either cycling through specific skincare and fragrances, because we're designed to detect change. It seems that all of our systems are made to enjoy some form of variation in every area of our health. Where are you on this? So, same signature or variation?
Variation. Variation for many aspects. First of all, we should have, when we're talking about the skin, we should have, and that could apply also, by the way, to scent, because it again, women have 4 menstrual phases to their menstrual cycle, and they have different hormonal composition during that cycle, during that time of the month. Therefore, scents will skew during every phase. Okay, so you are not a signature individual. You are not the same individual. You're not the same individual for other factors. Anything from your stress levels to barometric pressure, what you ate, whatever that is. So it's not realistic. And it's also less fun, in my opinion. If we talk about the skin health is built on fluctuation. And we need to have push and pull, or push and relax, I would say, strategy of maybe dividing. Let's talk about something as impactful as retinol. So we have a product that's called bioretinol, for example. And this product is actually designed for people to be able to use it even like twice a day. Not often, but maybe a couple months a year. Okay? Mm-hmm. And other times it's designed to be impactful enough to be used even twice a week and still be effective. So, what it does, again, it mimics the natural usage and production of vitamin A in your body, in your skin. So even as a company, we're saying, hey, you don't need to use a product consistently every day all the time. I mentioned the hyperbaric mask. We say, hey, use it for 1 month every night after your moisturizer, because it's an occlusive product. But then, dial it back to a couple times a week. We have a product that eliminates a certain type of malfunctioning cells. They're called senescent cells or zombie cells. We're telling you, hey, finish a bottle, and you don't really need to do that for another, 4 to 6 months. So use it for a couple of months, then lay off for 4 months. So you use it twice a year. These are, obviously, we're putting our money where our mouth is. Obviously, it's much better for us to have people use products all the time and finishing them very quickly. But this is less sincere. Some things like washing your face, you should do pretty regularly.
All right, got it. So we should embrace the seasonalities, the changes, the change in sensitivity and perceptions in all areas. It seems like it's popping up as a theme in all areas of biohacking that I've been exposed to, in food, in nutrition, in exercise, in olfaction training. They always say, we are designed to enjoy and detect change. As long as it's not too random and not too disruptive, there is something about having this kind of wave-like structure to whatever we put on our skin, in our mouth. Fascinating. Okay, so you already started saying that you designed, when you co-founded the functional skincare company, Young Goose, you started designing products with that in mind. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're so passionate about and what your podcast kind of covers to a much deeper level?
So our mission is to really take whatever is in the forefront of life extension, of health span extension. This is the part of your life where you are a contributing member of society, also to yourself and also to society. That's a health span rather than lifespan. These things leave a breadcrumb trail of how they are doing it. And obviously there are anything from billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Tony Robbins and we can go through the list, Brian Johnson, people that are pouring millions and millions and millions in kind of discovering they can benefit their own health normally, to research in even like different organisms. And the skin actually is, the funny thing is that the skin, we can translate how something affects, a C. elegans or whatever, or yeast or a bacteria, much easier than translating it to a full human. It's just less cells and they're more isolated. What we do is we take those studies, obviously we take the most substantial molecules and things that we see that really extend life in different organisms by 60%, by 100%, by very large numbers, in humans by like 20%. And we translate them to cosmetic formulations. A lot of the times that's not enough, and we need to find strategies also to kind of stimulate repair. So there are kind of two sides. Behave younger and use it. Put money in the bank and find out how to invest it, kind of. And we can create incredible results. I mean, we are kind of a cult product within that longevity or biohacking space for a reason. People can use only one product, or they can use systems that we built to target specific things. Everything's on our website. There's even a quiz. We ask you a very simple couple questions about what your goals are, and we recommend a specific system. Nothing too complicated. Even though we're coming out with some very, very complicated testing, basically taking a dry blood spot and telling you, hey, that's the products you need. So through what we call a metabolomic panel, and we're using brilliant people out of the Arizona State University to do that. It's almost out, actually.
Personalized really cool. Skincare. Yeah, that's the future, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, this is pretty much kind of your philosophy and the vision for developing Young Goose's product strategy.
Yes, and obviously the podcast is not to sell you products. The podcast is not to tell you, hey, you have to use our products or else you're not going to look good tomorrow. Obviously, the same way we spoke today a lot about, not necessarily, we didn't speak about the fact, how do we experience the scent of rosemary. We spoke about us as human beings and how our body behaves and how it lends itself to different scents. Same thing we can say about regenerative molecules. First, we need to improve the body and how it functions. And that's really the evil plan of the podcast. The evil plan of the podcast is, in order for our clients to get the best results, they need to know how to live a healthy, regenerative life and what's kind of affecting their health decisions positively. So that's what the podcast is about. It's a very, very deep dive. Sometimes we're trying to keep it very interesting, but it's a deep dive into different ingredients, different lifestyle changes. We spoke today somewhat about microbiome, but a lot of times we do talk about the gut microbiome and how it affects our skin. So if anyone liked the more scientific point of view, so we just are coming out with like 30 minutes talking about L-ascorbic acid that I just said is the devil. So 30 minutes of that, trying to keep it interesting.
Fascinating. I really enjoy listening to the Beauty Biohacking podcast by you guys. You bring a wide variety of guests, so highly recommend you guys also join that. All right, last question. So the audience of this podcast is mixed gender, all global, around the world, different climates, different ages. But what would you like, in terms of 3 takeaways, what could people, either questions they can ask or something they can apply, 3 things they can apply to give their skin the best chance to be healthy? Because I assume if it's healthy, it will smell better and it will interact with the world better. What are the 3 things you want people who are maybe not as knowledgeable about it, where do they start?
It's a great question. And it's going to be a pretty simple answer. The first is sleep. Sleep is very important. And if your sleep is disrupted, you are going to interact with molecules around you in a very erratic fashion. Whether it is sugar, whether it is holding on to toxins, whether it is storing toxins and molecules that are going to change the way you smell in the fat that you accumulate. And from that, anywhere to, again, not being able to do a good job maintaining your acid mantle, your skin barrier, the things that we spoke about before. So sleep is extremely important. And if you want to really, I would say, ace your skin health journey as it relates to sleep, try and get your sleep dialed in so you sleep between 10 to 12 p.m. That is the times that our body dedicates more to skin health and regeneration than other times, what we call the skin golden hours. Again, 10 to 12 or at least 11 to 12. That's number one. Number two, it would be, I would say, as a large kind of category, I would say detoxification. Detoxification, I'm going to be recommending just movement in order to, so the lymphatic system, that what I kind of mentioned in the beginning, does not have something like a heart. So your heart is a pump, and that's your blood system. Lymphatic system kind of works the same, but it doesn't have a pump. Its pump are your muscles. So when you move your muscles, you move your lymphatic system. And when you sweat, you also detoxify. So I'm not saying apply a perfume when you sweat, but the ability to sweat out toxins, obviously you take a shower, you wash them off, you will have less toxins kind of excreted off of you on a regular basis, and you'll have a better body odor. And I'll give one, I would say just an ingredient to try and incorporate in your diet, which is moringa. Moringa powder, moringa as a plant, has the ability to help you detoxify, has the ability to also help you. So it activates NRF2 pathway, which is our main detox pathway. It also increases something called glutathione, which is our natural antioxidant, kind of the body's master antioxidant. So by incorporating moringa, you will be able to actually have a more balanced and more predictable and a more naturally better body odor.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the good advice. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Guys, it's your time now. Leave your comments. If you have any more questions for me or Amitay, I'll collect them. I'll send them back. If there's any questions or something important, something that bothers you that we haven't answered, they can be a follow-up. It all depends on your involvement and engagement. Amitay, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Hey there, you reached the end, but don't just depart. Hit like, subscribe, it's a way to take part. You support your love, it's an art.